The Galaxy Note 10 has just released and is very controversial in some of its decisions to change what basically makes a note a note. And if you want to learn more about that, please do check out my comparison on Android Authority, because that's where I did the actual comparison in specs. But today we're going to be talking about the Galaxy Note 9, and I'm going to be looking back on it as a device that you can use now that's probably better than the Note 10 that costs just a fraction of the price. So hey guys, my name is Ryan Thomas, and should you still buy a Galaxy Note 9? Let's find out. I want to start by talking about the design and build, because that's what makes this thing differ from Samsung Galaxy phones that have released just this year. The fact that it doesn't have a hole punch and it doesn't have a notch, it's just that flat top and bottom bezel, which I actually really like. Now these bezels aren't the smallest in the world, but they are pretty skinny, and the sides are curved to make this still a fairly new looking phone. And to be honest, I mean, it's been out for about a year now. That's really not that long of a time to have a flagship smartphone like this. I happen to really like this design. I actually prefer this one to the Galaxy Note 10 and 10 Plus, purely because it's kind of symmetrical and the bezels match and it's not kind of odd looking. I also really like the profile of the sides, which are more rounded compared to the Note 10 that has kind of a flat bottom and flat top. And of course this one keeps the headphone port, as well as IP68 water and dust resistance and everything like that. Has micro SD card slot. Yeah, a lot of the things that are missing on the Note 10 are found here on the Note 9, and I really like this phone for the way it looks. I think the fingerprint scanner being physical on the back is really useful, because I'm not a huge fan of in-display ones, and similarly I really like the horizontal way of mounting cameras as opposed to the vertical way of mounting cameras, which we can find on the Note 10. I just like the way it looks. I think the Galaxy S10 Plus probably has the nicest looking rear camera section for me. I don't know if that's just a personal thing, but again, I think it looks really good. It is pretty large and can be kind of unwieldy for some, but it does have a lot of curves to its glass sandwich design, which make it easier to hold than if it was just a brick. And I really like the colours that this thing came in. This one's in black, but there's like a blue and a purple. I really like the look of that purple one. And we've also got the S Pen, which is a staple of the Galaxy Note series that I like here as well. It's a little bit less intuitive than the one that's going to be on the Note 10, but it's still like a much improved version than the really dumb standard one that I used for the first time on the Galaxy Note 4 just about a year and a half ago. The build quality is brilliant, and like I said, it has got IP68 water and dust resistance, so having something that's going to last like that for a long time is a lot better than something like a OnePlus, which isn't specifically rated for that kind of water and dust resistance. And the design package as a whole, with all that I/O, with all those extra features, all packed into a very, very classy looking phone, just a recipe for success. Next up is the screen, which is beautiful. A big screen, 6.3 to 6.4 inches, has a wonderful QHD resolution, which is not found on the Note 10 unfortunately, and there's no cutout, there's no display distraction, which makes this thing really nice for watching YouTube videos and films on, which is what I've been doing quite a lot. And a kind of midway segment into the fact that I got this phone because of Damien Wilde, so check out his YouTube channel if you can, because he's supplied this phone to me for about a week and I've really been enjoying it, so thank you Damien. Anyway, back to the video. The contrast, the sharpness, the colours, the saturation, the dynamic range, and everything in between, really just absolutely fantastic on this phone. It has to be one of the best smartphone displays I think that's ever existed, purely for the fact that it's uninterrupted and there aren't any holes or notches in it, and it's a very complete experience. Also, the corners are fairly tight, so they're not hugely rounded corners like what you'd see on some lower end smartphones. They actually fit very nicely, and it's a very squared off looking phone. I actually quite like that. The screen actually gets unbelievably bright outdoors, which is something that you're probably going to want in the heat wave that we've had in the UK, although it's starting to get a little bit more stormy now. Moving on from this, we've got sound, which I think is actually kind of a big segue, because one, we keep the headphone port. I know, something that a lot of people are hating on the Note 10 for not having, including myself, and the stereo speakers are pretty good on this too. So we've got that hybrid stereo setup with the bottom firing unit acting along with the kind of earpiece speaker as a bit of a hybrid stereo setup. Sounds really good, especially for watching YouTube videos. If you're watching films, you're going to want to use the headphone port because of the dynamic range and immersion, but when it comes to just watching the standard YouTube video, I think it works really well. There's a little bit of bass to it, which is nice, but it's not as, let's say, detailed as something like a Razer phone. In the performance category, I mean, there's really nothing to say about this. The 845 and the 9810, whichever variation you pick, because they do have slight differences in performance, they're just going to offer fantastic performance experiences. 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage or 8GB of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. Those are the two options, and I feel like doesn't matter which one you go with, you're going to have enough storage, which makes you wonder why you'd go for the 512 gig version. A lot of people will go for that because they store a lot of music on their phones or a lot of photos. I personally do pretty much everything in the cloud, so I would rather go for the 6x128 gig model. Gaming, browsing, multitasking, I mean, there's no hiccup on this thing. It's basically a brand new phone and way more than powerful enough for at least the next 2 years in my opinion. The software One UI is something that I praised on the Galaxy Note 8, and I find it again here really good. I much prefer One UI to Samsung Experience in terms of the aesthetic. Whether the difference in actual user interface is any use to me, I don't know, but I really like the way it looks. It looks cleaner, looks more modern, and it's actually what I really like about the S10e, but obviously we have it here in the Note 9 as well. We're not going to get that many software updates. I believe we'll probably get Android 10, but probably not the software update after that going into the future. Samsung's track record of producing and supporting software on older phones is neither here or there really. The camera's great. Now, I'm just going to say it's great right off the bat. The set of cameras, the hardware that you get, an 8MP selfie camera and two 12MP rear cameras, that sounds pretty good. But the fact that this thing doesn't have a wide angle sensor, or a wide angle camera rather, is something that I don't like. I love having wide angle sensors, or rather lenses, in any smartphone, and that's why I really like the S10e, because even though it only has two cameras, one of them is wide angle. The telephoto found in the Note 9 is kind of a little bit gimmicky. It's not necessarily that useful, and something like a 3 or 5 times would have been better, but obviously in the Note 10 we have an ultra wide as well, which kind of makes up for this. For me, I couldn't use it, I couldn't keep it as a daily just because I love that ultra wide. That's something that's personal to me. A lot of people won't have a phone because it lacks a headphone port or something like that. For me, it's got to be that ultra wide camera. The results that come out of this thing are really good. Like, the software processing is really good. I believe the software, like the app in general, is fairly intuitive and has many features and settings, but the actual results are good. There's one thing that I will note, and that is the fact that because you don't have the ultra wide camera, you do have to kind of rethink your shots if you're used to using an ultra wide camera. So I found that the standard lens was a little bit too zoomed in for me. I'm not sure if that's just a personal thing, but yeah. Of course, we got video at UHD 4K 60 frames per second, as well as slow motion up to 1000 frames per second, which is, I guess, useful for those of you who want to post gimmicky clips to Instagram, but I've never really used the slow motion in a phone before. Moving on to battery life, this is something that's quite controversial on the new Galaxy Note 10 as well, the fact that it's only got a 3500 mAh battery. This has a very solid 4000 mAh battery, and the software meets up with that quite well as well, because no matter who you are, you're going to get a full day out of this phone, and even on used units you are able to get a decent battery life out of this thing. Now, 4000 mAh may not seem overly huge these days, but we've got larger screens, more cameras and all that to deal with, whereas I say back then, about a year ago, it's slightly less feature packed, so you shouldn't worry too much about it. Charging is fast, wireless charging is available. I think as an overall battery package, it's one of the better old phones to buy, along with the Mate 20X and Mate 20 Pro. Although it's not quite there, it's still very good. Comparisons to be made on the market on eBay, remember I use eBay for all my pricing, include the Mi Mix 3, which I'll get to in a second because you might think that's a little bit out of order, the Galaxy S10 and the Note 8. So the Note 8, I believe, should be skipped, and you should go straight to the Note 9 if you want to know, and that kind of leads me on to the next thing. You could get a Galaxy S10, which is newer, it's going to have a newer processor, newer cameras, an extra camera for that matter, and a slightly larger battery. So if you want a Galaxy phone, I reckon you should go for the S10 out of every Galaxy phone. But if you want to go for a Note, I recommend going for the Note 9, which is around £450 used on eBay. And some of you will be able to snag a deal of around £380, £390 because they often go for that kind of thing on there. But as an average, £450 is a good price to go for, the base model that is. Now, I mentioned the Mi Mix 3 because I think the Mi Mix 3 is one of the best deals in tech right now. If you're into software development, or you kind of don't mind putting ROMs on your phone, or even if you don't mind MIUI, I think the Mi Mix 3 is the better bet. Yes, it's still got a big screen, yes, it's still got many cameras, but the overall kind of package you're getting for around £300 is better. And I only mention that really because I've just seen, when I was researching the price of the Note 9, the Mi Mix 3 has come down incredibly in price. Otherwise, I think the Note 9 is probably the best Samsung Note. Now, you know what, I know it's the best Samsung Note to buy right now. No, it's not going to be as exciting or as new or as hole punchy or as gimmicky as the Note 10, but you know what, it's got a lot of features that people are missing on the Note 10 already, and that gives it a lot of praise considering it's £450 versus £1,000 for the Note 10. Anyway, with this video I want to thank Damien so much for lending me this phone for a week. It's his personal device, I've kept it in the case the entire time apart from shooting B-roll. I mean, yeah, he's babied this thing and he's given me a lot of trust, or had a lot of trust in me for borrowing this phone. So thank you, Damien. Please do check out his channel if you want to see kind of laptop reviews and stuff like that. He's also got an iPhone video coming up very soon, I believe. Very interesting stuff, very good reviewer as well. Also a top lad, so yeah, go give him a follow. Anyway, please do like, dislike, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. Also check out my social media links, which will all be in the video description below, as well as where to buy this phone, which I featured in this video, and a couple of other recommendations. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you all so much for your continued support, and I will try and get some more phone videos out soon, although at the moment I'm kind of having fun experimenting with different kinds of tech to review. Anyway, I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.